Hey friends, welcome to the Peaceful Mompreneur podcast. Have you caught yourself thinking, I've missed my window, or this just isn't the season for anything new? But what if this is the season? Yes, the one where you're being interrupted 47 times before 9 a.m. This isn't holding you back from the vision that God has given you, but it is preparing you for it. I'm sitting down with a guest today who is here to break the lie that your best years are behind you or that you've missed your window, and to remind you that God can use you right now for something internal. Whether you're pivoting after burnout, rediscovering your identity, or just feeling the tug that there's something more, this conversation will leave you feeling seen, re energized, and remind you that the most meaningful impact is still ahead. I want to introduce you to Jill White. She is a speaker, coach, and an author who helps Christian women rediscover their God given purpose and navigate life transitions with clarity, peace, and renewed vision. Jill empowers women to move beyond role based identity and step into who God created them to be. Through her story driven coaching and inspirational teaching, Jill reminds women that it's never too late to become who they were always meant to be. Jill, thank you so much for joining us.
What a joy. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we're talking about starting something new and running after this new assignment that God has given us. Okay. So, I know that because I know you a little bit, that you talk about three indicators that God is giving you something new. So, how do we recognize them, even when life feels uncertain or messy?
You know, and I'm so glad to be talking to younger women, younger moms. Maybe they're not younger, but at least their children aren't.
Yeah.
But mainly because I do most of my talking to older women, and the problems that come up there actually began when they were younger mothers. And so I'm so excited to be speaking to this topic with everyone. But when God is about to make a change in your life, the first thing you'll know is that you have an urging within your heart that there's something out there, there's something different, something I need. And so that urging is put in your heart. And usually, one of the things I found is that when I have an urging in my heart for something, I know that how I can find God's will is to try the doorknob of every door that comes in front of me. And I pray before I figuratively open the door and just, Lord, if this is the way, let the door open. And if not, lock it shut. And it has been amazing in my life that that has been the best way to find God's will is to pray for locked doors. And then if they're not locked, walk through them. Go for it. So when that urging is there, try everything that comes your way. And if it's slightly locked, don't push on it. Just let the Lord open it in his timing. Or if it does open, walk in it. Another way you know it's about time for a change is that the people around you are changing. Maybe your little ones have entered middle school, or something like that. And when those shifts come, it feels like, well, it's just about them. But really, you'll notice if you've never had kids leave elementary school and go to middle school, you're going to be surprised at the time change you're going to have, that there's a difference in the time it's needed for you to invest in their class and their school and their life. So when time shifts happen, it's a way to say, now what? Now what do you want me to do, Lord? And then another way to know that it's probably, the Lord's probably shifting something within you is, and this isn't the pleasant one, but it's, let me give you a story to show you what I mean, and I think you'll catch it. But I have outside my door, some barn swallows have built a nest up in the eaves. And they're so cute when they're babies. They make a horrible mess, but they're really, really cute. And they've been there for about 8 or 9 years. Some barn swallow comes in every summer. But when it's time for them to leave the nest, most of them fly willingly, but there's usually one who squawks and cries and will not move out. And the mom will change the nest up and it won't be comfortable anymore. And my biggest shifts in life have come when God began to make the nest very uncomfortable so that I would be willing to move. The one in particular where he made it, I thought it was a place I would be, that I would be there until the day I died. It was a job I loved. But all of a sudden, he made that so uncomfortable. I'd been there 23 years. And all of a sudden, it was the most uncomfortable place for me. Things were just horrible. And I thought, what is this? I love this place. But what he was doing was making me uncomfortable to get out of the nest. And I can tell you that my life shifted after that in the most beautiful ways. And I never would have left that nest had he not made it uncomfortable. So you look for the things that bring you joy. You look for the things around you that are shifting, and then you look within and where things are uncomfortable for you. Those are kind of signals. There's a lot of other signals, but those three, they pretty much stand out as the way he leads us around.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. And they're very, very practical. You can look at your life right now and say, like, is this where I am? And is this what the Lord is asking of me? I love that so much. So, can you share a moment, and you did a little bit a second ago, of your own story when, well, never mind, when it felt like things were too late, but it surprised you, but God surprised you?
Yes. Yes. And again, I'm glad to speak to people that are younger than me. This is a biblical thing because the scriptures tell the older women to teach the younger women. And so I'm this week applying for Medicare. I'm an old woman now. And but I don't feel old. I feel very youthful and I connect very well with younger women. But you know, there's a point where you hit 50, and I've never quit feeling 27. I'll just let all your moms out there know. You can look at older women. They don't feel as old as they look. If someone says, how old do you feel? It's always 27. It's not 26, it's not 28, it's 27. But, you know, there's shifts in life. There's a shift about 30, 33, 35, somewhere in there. There's another shift that comes when you're 50. And everybody I've talked to, that shift, it's only a number shift. Physically, emotionally, everything, you actually have more to offer at 50 than you do at 30. You have more energy, you have more wisdom, you have more time, more financial resources usually. I thought, okay, well, when I hit 60, that's going to end. And you know, it never has. It is like I'm seeing that until the day that God brings me home, he has something for me. So the feeling like I've missed something and I'm too old, maybe I've waited too long, I'm too late, I've learned over time that you never are. We are not that powerful. He has our timeline in his hand, and we're not that powerful. So we're never too late. Some people say, I'm just too much. You're never too much. You're never too little. You're never too late. It's all that we have to do is open our hands and be ready to receive. So I I always thought I was going to feel too late. And I think we all feel that way. There's going to be a point where I feel it's too late. And so far, I haven't found it yet. And so I just don't think that it's an actuality. Even like Colonel Sanders, what did he do? Kentucky Fried Chicken when he was in his 80s or some 70s or 80s? And you think about these people that waited so long and then had success. So it's just never too late. If you've got little children hugging your ankles right now, It may not be the right season, but you're not too late.
Mm.
And you don't have to worry that by the time they grow up, you will be too late. You won't be. It's all good. This season with little children is a quieter season. Now, I shouldn't say it's quieter because it probably doesn't feel that quiet, but in your soul, it feels quiet. Like, what do I do? What do I do next? How do I feel like I have purpose? But right now, probably your purpose is an assignment that you've been given. And that assignment is to be a mother.
Mm.
That doesn't mean that's your life purpose. That would be the one thing I would caution young mothers about is I hear young mothers say something, and I'm going to step on some toes here, but I hear them say, my children are my life. And that scares me when I hear that because it's their life. You're there to train their life in the way it should go, but they're not your life. And the role of mother is a beautiful assignment from God. Beautiful. But that doesn't make it your purpose for life. When they leave the nest, you need to know you're going to have to stop and reevaluate life. My mother once told me something that I never really hear too many mothers say, but I was grateful to have a very wise mother. But when she was in her late 70s, she looked at me one day and just out of the clear blue, she said, you know, I hear mothers say, I wish my children could have stayed babies. I wish I could slow time down. I wish it could just stay right now. And she said, Jill, I'm just going to tell you that every season of your life, every age of your life has been one of my favorites. And she said, I wouldn't have missed one of them if they've all been my favorites. And then she also said, well, maybe not that time you were 17 and got all sassy, but but that helped my mother live a healthy life, was to allow me to grow up and not try to stunt, not wish she could stunt my growth, but
Mm.
allow me to grow and change. So just know that as your children grow, you're still their mother. Your mothering might change, but your purpose doesn't. It took me a while to remember what is my purpose. You know, I love to help people find their purpose, but it's also important that I know mine. And I can look back over my life and I see the common things that brought me joy in my life, the common threads that I always thought that was wonderful. And the first one I saw, I was in the third grade, and my next door neighbor was in kindergarten. And I was reading. She said, I can't read. I want to read. And immediately I looked at her and I said, come here. And we went into her kitchen at her dining room table. And over a few days, I taught that little girl to read. And it was just the proudest moment of my life. And even her mother told my mother, she really did teach her how to read. Then I became a teacher. And I loved that. Then I became a principal and I loved that. I became a coach and a consultant and I loved that. But there was a point where I became a school superintendent and I hated it. And I thought, what was the difference? Why did I love all of those, but not that? And I began to realize that everything that had brought me joy and had lit my soul was connected to one thing. It was always about helping someone be successful in the next season of their life. When I taught Harriet at her kitchen table, she was successful. When I taught school, they were successful in their next year. As a principal, I helped teachers and parents be successful. But as a school superintendent, I ran a business
Mm.
and reported to the board. And that's all I seemed to be able to do, or expel someone. It was nothing about helping people be successful. So I would say, as you're coming through these years of youth as a woman and the changes that occur there. Accept every change that comes your way, because the alternative would be horrible.
Mm.
If you want your children to not grow up, there's only one option in that. And I'm in the Texas Hill Country right now. That's where I live. And right now, we've just experienced the worst flooding, and little children whose parents wish that their kids could grow up,
Mm.
because now they won't. So don't ever wish that away. Don't wish life away. Enjoy every day, every birthday. Enjoy every year of their life. Give them space to change, give them space to lead, and then find your purpose. But along the way, be looking for those little joy signals, the little joy lights in your life. And don't forget them. Put them in your journal, because one day you need to come back and find those and see what the common thread is.
Mhm.
I've rattled on too long.
No, that's so good. You said lots and lots of wonderful things in there. I'm very appreciative of that. I loved your story about like you thought at some point you would think you were too late, but you never were, and that's very encouraging. I'm only 35, right? And so I remember thinking years ago that if I didn't figure it out, then I wasn't going to get it figured out. And I'm like, I still don't have it figured out, right? And whenever I was at that age, my mom and my grandmother and her siblings had started a business together, and I kept reminding myself like they're, much older than me and they're doing it, right? They're doing this new thing. And so like if I don't do it today, it's okay. But I had talked myself off the ledge, okay? So that was good. But I'm like, in hindsight, you're like, that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. But still, and I love
I have a guitar in the other room that I got for Christmas from my dad. I don't play the guitar, but I'm going to take lessons. And I've had people say, you can't learn that after you're 60. And I just kind of look at them and I don't say anything. I just kind of smile and walk away. But in my mind, I'm thinking, watch me.
That's right. That's right. It is. I love it. It's never too late. It's never too late. Um, yeah, okay. That's awesome. So what would you like? Every season can be a launch pad, and you talked a lot about that, about finding the joy that you are getting in, as you go through life, because maybe right now isn't the season to do that big thing that you have a vision,
Yes.
but you are preparing for that. What would you
Yes.
say to the woman who feels like she's too tired or too stretched then, really, to even believe that that's possible?
Yes. That's a great question, because young mothers are almost always too tired to think about big things. And so, right now, in this season, remember that this season, like I said earlier, it's a little quiet in your soul because you're tired and you're stretched to the limit sometimes. But that tiredness and the stretching that we get is really laying the foundation for the big things that will happen later. Right now, any building, you have to dig deep to lay the foundation before you can hang the curtains later on. I'm in the season of hanging curtains in my life, and I love it. But it took the quietness and the weariness, the tiredness, sometimes the depression. All of those things come because of hormones and all of that. But those are not bad things. They're just reminders. This is quiet. It's okay. Stay quiet. Stay. If you're tired, guess what God wants you to do? It starts with an R and it ends with an EST. It's rest. If God rested for 1/7 of his time, guess what we should do? And
Mhm.
if you're tired, it is never wrong to rest. Just rest every chance you get if you're that tired. There's nothing wrong with that. You may be building up energy for later on. So if you're tired, don't press that. Just say, Lord, I'm going to rest today. And he will look over you, watch you sleep, and sing over you because he loves you and he wants you to rest. So you're
Mhm.
tired, don't press it. It's all good. It's all okay.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jill. This has been great. So I want you to tell everybody where they can find you and about the guide that you have coming out, rediscovering who I am, a faith-based reflection to reclaim your identity, embrace what's next.
Yes, they can reach me at Jill at overflowcoaching.co, not .com. You won't get me if you put an M at the end, but overflowcoaching.co. And then my email address is Jill at overflowcoaching.co. When you go to overflowcoaching.co, you'll be able to sign up. I have two freebies for anybody who wants to come over there, and they're just a gift from me to you. One is it time to rediscover myself? It is that rediscovering guide where you answer questions for yourself. You go through it and you examine, is this my time to rediscover who God meant me to be? Because those difficult times, they do quiet us down, but sometimes we dim our lights almost too much and we fail to light them back up later. But the other one that might even be better for young mothers, especially in this culture today, that's available to them is called Your Sacred No. That it
Mm,
is sometimes good to say, sometimes I think Lisa Turkhurst has something called Your Best Yes, and it's the no. That
mm,
we don't have to say yes to everything. And there's nothing wrong with saying no because it can be very sacred. So either one of those they can get at overflowcoaching.co. And I'd love for them to join us there. I do have a program that is a lengthier program that is geared toward women over 40 who are starting to come through the life transitions and life shifts. That might be your mom's.
right.
But there is a lot of shifting that occurs after 40. Marital shifts, children growing up, growing out, adult parents coming back in. All of those shifts happen and they really do affect who you think you are and who you think you've been and who you believe your future is. So interestingly enough, the program says it's geared for women over 40, Christian women over 40. But the youngest lady I've had in there was 24. She was
Mm,
looking to discover her purpose because she had had kind of a traumatic life shift and she was feeling that slip that sometimes occurs there. So they're welcome. That's called Becoming Her Again. And so they're welcome to look at that. I don't want them to try to enroll if that's not where they are right now. But I would
mm.
like for them to take advantage of those free gifts that I have for them. Your Sacred No, and Is It Time to Rediscover Me? So
Perfect.
those are
Thank
their
you so much,
paths.
Jill. That
Thank
was great. And
you.
these things will all be in the show notes that everybody can get. All right, Jill. Well, we really appreciate you being here, and everybody will see you next time.